What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And today, I'm going to talk about organizational irresponsibility and front office disaster management. And the reason I'm talking about that is because this week we found out that Daniel Jones was released from the New York Giants. Now, the crazy thing about that is that prior to the season even started, there was not only was their fan base talking about it, but people outside of their fan base was talking about it and talking about how in the upcoming draft, because there were so many quality quarterbacks in the draft, there was an opportunity for the New York Giants to move on from Daniel Jones and to start fresh and new. Now, the crazy thing about that was that after all the talk and all the there was even a point where we were watching Hard Knocks, and we're watching them as they made as Brian Daboll and Joe Shane and the Joe Shane staff and some of the coaching staff was all fawning over Jaden Daniels. But the crazy thing about all of that was that for some reason, everybody forgot that the Giants weren't picking number 1 or number 2. Knowing that Jaden Daniels was going to be a top quarterback in the draft. Knowing that there were 3 teams ahead of them that were going for quarterbacks. And yet and still, when three of the quarterbacks went, they still felt the need to go in the direction of a wide receiver. And we heard it on Hard Knocks, where the reasoning was, let's take the wide receiver and let's see if we could just build around Daniel Jones. And here you are now, at a point where first you announce that you're benching him. He goes to the 3rd string quarterback, and then he goes into the owner's office and asks for him to be released. You could have avoided all this if you would have just drafted a quarterback in the draft instead of taking a wide receiver. And don't get me wrong, Malik Neighbors is great, but it wasn't what you needed at the time. That was not what you needed at the time. Michael Penix is wasting away on the bench in Atlanta. Do you know that you could have gotten Michael Penix and you could have gotten one of his receiving threats? I mean, you might not have gotten Jalen Pope, because I think Jalen Pope went in the 2nd round, but you could have gotten Jalen McMillan. You could have gotten Cope, his tight end. You could have gotten his other tight end. I think his name is Wes Warren. You could have got one of those guys. But yet, you chose to take Malik Neighbors, knowing that your quarterback was not the answer. And here you are now in a situation where you can mess around and win games. Because we can pretend like we didn't see Tommy DeVito actually beat Washington. Tommy DeVito can mess around and say, hey, I want to put good film out there. I want an opportunity. And mess around and win games. Then what? Then what do you do? We saw y'all sign an ineffective backup quarterback in Drew Lock. We knew that was coming. This is where organizational irresponsibility comes into play. John Mara made it very clear. He did not want this mistake to happen. He made that clear he didn't want that mistake to happen. And we understand, but yet and still, the Giants haven't made a lot of mistakes at quarterback when it comes to their starting quarterbacks. And yet and still, you chose to risk it all on Daniel Jones when everybody saw that Daniel Jones wasn't it. He wasn't the answer. And you screwed that up. You screwed that up. Now here you are. Now you got to sit up here and deal with disaster management. Now you got to prove to your fan base that what you did the year before isn't going to screw up what's going to happen this year. You probably have easily sat up there and put yourself out of the running for a top quarterback even in this draft. Because currently right now you're not number 1 or number 2. But even with that, if you even win one game, you're out of luck. Because then that pushes you, you're definitely not getting Shador, because he's more than likely going to go number 1. He's more than likely going to go number 1. And Jacksonville's currently got that spot. You got to hope and pray that you can lose enough games to be in the running. And then when you talk about, you got Cam Ward, but then after that, you got what? Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers. You think any of those guys are going to make your team or make your fan base feel comfortable about going into the season with one of these guys? That's what you're going to have them believe? You sat up there and basically threw your opportunity to go in the right direction in the trash when you took Malik Nabers. I'm not saying Malik Nabers is a bad pick. What I'm saying is that he wasn't the right pick. Knowing you had to get a quarterback in a draft that was littered with quality quarterbacks. That's what you did as a disaster thing. That's what the New York Giants did. And we saw it happen on Hard Knocks. I'm not even a Giants fan, but when I saw that happen on Hard Knocks, I said they're going to regret that move. They're going to absolutely regret that move. And there's so many times where I hear people defending about Daniel Jones isn't that bad. He's not. Daniel Jones is awful. Daniel Jones is awful. Not only that, let's go a little deeper, because let's not just talk about Daniel Jones. Let's also talk about how you let an elite player go to a division rival. You sat up there and let Saquon Barkley, who deserved the money way before Daniel Jones did, you let him go to a division rival, and you're watching him make plays with your division rival. That's organizational irresponsibility. That's front office disaster management right there. Hey, before you sign, before you make any decisions, give me a call. He don't owe you nothing. He didn't owe you a thing. He didn't have to call you and tell you nothing. He had already made his decision before you even spoke to him. I wouldn't have came back neither knowing Daniel Jones is the quarterback. You basically let 80 to 85 to 90% of your offense walk out the door and go to your division rival. That's what you did. And Joe Shane should sit up there and get fired for something like that. You sit up there, you go to the draft, you draft a wide receiver, you give the reason that, everybody's fawning over Jaden Daniels. You don't have the number 1 pick. You don't have the number 2 pick. You didn't go evaluate Michael Penix like you should have. and took a deep dive into what you was going to get out of Michael Penix. You didn't do that. And your reasoning on draft day was to, hey, maybe if we put better talent around Daniel Jones, he'll be better. No. Daniel Jones wasn't going to be better. And then here's the, oh, well, he didn't have a quality left tackle and all. That offensive line has been practically the same offensive line for the past 3 years. And it can't be on all the offensive line because guess what? Tyrod Taylor played behind that offensive line and they found a way to win games. Tommy DeVito played behind that line and they found, even though they gave up 9 sacks, and understand that was late in the season, they still found a way to win the game. They were running the ball pretty well. Can't beat the line. And it's so crazy because, again, the only people that didn't see that they were making mistakes was Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. And I'm going to put Brian Daboll on there too because you know why? He was the one fawning the most over Jaden Daniels and didn't look at no other quarterback as deeply. That was stupid. When we saw them go visit Michael Penix, that was one time. And didn't even think to say, you know what? Caleb might go number 1. Jaden might go number 2. Let's really look deeply into Penix. There were people in your fan base screaming, take Michael Penix. We like Malik Neighbors, but we want Penix. People in your own fan base were screaming that. And you still chose to go with Daniel Jones. But hey, I'm not a Giants fan. It's just that it's so crazy how so many quarterbacks get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And we see others that don't get that same level of opportunity. You know, you're talking about, when you think about Baker Mayfield, it took him about 5 or 6 years to actually get it. To where he is right now, where he's actually making plays. Look at somebody like a Sam Darnold. Took him about 5 to 6 years. Because what was that, 2015 draft? What draft was that, 2017 draft? Might be the 2017 draft. Took him a minute. Took him a minute to figure it out. No, what's 2017? 2017, 2018, maybe 2018 draft. 2018 draft. About 5 years for both of them to figure it out. 5 years. What, 3 different teams for Baker Mayfield? Wait a minute. 3 different teams for 3 or 4 different teams for Baker Mayfield. 4 teams for 4 teams for Sam Darnold. What does that tell y'all? It takes time for quarterbacks to groom. But then there's sometimes where you say, look, this guy's gotten so many opportunities to be the starter. Not only that, they paid him. They paid him even with his poor play. He got paid. Just like Trevor Lawrence. And I'll talk more about the Trevor Lawrence situation because I don't think they were planning on paying Trevor Lawrence. I think what happened was that when Calvin Ridley left them because they had made the trade for Mac Jones, and they thought that with Mac Jones, I know what they were doing. They were going to pair Mac Jones back up with Calvin Ridley because Mac Jones's freshman year, Calvin Ridley was there. At Calvin Ridley's final year, they were there together. They were going to have Mac Jones, have Calvin Ridley, and they were going to go ahead and let Trevor Lawrence's deal run out. And it backfired because Calvin Ridley ended up signing with the Titans. But I'm not talking about that right now. But either way, it was very irresponsible to sit up there and believe in Daniel Jones when Daniel Jones has shown that he could not be trusted. And to see on Hard Knocks, I watch Hard Knocks, And I kept telling everybody who I talked about when they brought up Hard Knocks, I kept saying, what we're seeing right now is an organization being run by guys who are not smart enough to say, let's bail on the quarterback and let's take a guy in this draft. Brian Daboll got so fixated on Jaden Daniels that he didn't even think or look at any other quarterback deep enough to sit up there and say, hey, let's take a guy. Sad thing. Sad thing. But at the end of the day, I'm not a Giants fan. I'm just a frustrated fan who sits up here and watches as teams do stuff deliberately stupid. And then their fans have to sit up there and deal with the angst and the disappointment because the front office didn't do their jobs properly. It's not I could care less about the Giants themselves. What I'm sad about is that the fans had to endure this season and saw the writing on the wall before the front office saw it on the wall. Giants fans, I'm sorry for all of you. And I, as a Commanders fan, understand I could be less sympathetic, but I feel your pain because I was right there with y'all. Daniel Jones was not the answer. They should have drafted a quarterback this year. In fact, they should have took Michael Penix. That's what they should have done. And like I said again, this is no shade to Malik Neighbors because he's a fantastic player. He just wasn't the guy that they should have been taking. Y'all tell me what y'all think. For Giants fans, how are y'all feeling about this? Are y'all feeling? Understand? I don't have any skin in the game. I just feel bad about y'all. Giants fans, y'all tell me how y'all feel. What do y'all think about this whole Daniel Jones thing? And do y'all feel y'all should have took a quarterback in this in the draft that just passed? And do y'all feel that there's a chance that y'all can lose enough games to actually get one of the top quarterbacks in this upcoming draft? Because I don't know if y'all will be excited for a Jalen Milroe or a Quinn Ewers. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.